Thermopylae to life in a unique style, full of slow motion, high contrast colors, and brutal, choreographed action. Amid the blood and shields, there's a story of honor, sacrifice, and determination of 300 Spartans who chose to die for freedom. But beyond the stunning visuals, what's the story behind it? Is 300 just style without substance, or is it the perfect combination of history and entertainment? Here we go, let's dive deeper. This film opens with the voice of movie storyline, who explains the harshness of the journey of a man's son to become a real Spartan man, where every newborn baby will be examined by a shaman. If a baby is born disabled or has a dancing syndrome, the baby will be thrown into a hole full of bones. When the children are 5 years old, they begin to be trained by Spartan warriors. And after reaching the age of 7, they are separated from their mother to be trained even harder, such as being beaten to a pulp and being hit until they don't feel any pain when they are hit. When the children are young, they are released to the snowy forest to learn to survive. Throughout history, there was a child named Leonidas who accidentally met a wild wolf. He fished wolf into a narrow cliff hole, then killed him with a spear. Leonidas fled home to the hometown while carrying the wolf skin that he killed. And for his bravery, Leonidas was raised to be a Spartan king by his own father, who was also a Spartan king.
To sacred Sparta!
Days turn into months and months turn into years. Now Leonidas already has a wife named Queen Gorgo and is blessed with a son named Pleistarchos. One day, a group of people. The group was led by an unnamed man who showed several skulls of various kings he had killed. After they met Leonidas, explaining that he came here on the order of the Persian king, namely Xerxes, who claimed to be the god of the gods. Xerxes is also the most powerful king and has taken over several countries to bow to him. The messenger of Xerxes then said that Xerxes wanted to take over Sparta and asked Leonidas to bow to Xerxes. Of course, Leonidas refused while saying that he would not accept it if women and Spartan children were later made slaves. The messenger, he again warned Leonidas not to refuse because it could end the war that made the Spartans die in the hands of Persia. He also said that Xerxes and hundreds of thousands of his troops were on their way here. Leonidas, who never loses his wits, even challenges Xerxes, then kicks the messenger and his group into a dark well. Knowing that his city would be attacked, King Leonidas went to the ancient temple on the cliff to consult Ipa, which is the faith of the gods and has an abnormal body shape from ordinary humans. In Sparta, there is indeed a custom that even the king must allow Ipa before going to war. After meeting Ipa, Leonidas asked for permission to go to war the next day and explained how he would attack Persia from the north gate. This was done by Leonidas to defend the Persian troops. However, arrived shortly at the end of this month. Leonidas kept begging Ipa while giving him a bag of golds, so that Ipa would allow him to go to war. Seeing the bag of golds, Ipa agreed to Leonidas' wish, but before that, Ipa had to make sure first through Oracle. Oracle is the most beautiful girl in Sparta. Hearing the statement, Leonidas was angry. He left the temple and decided to defy Oracle's order. After Leonidas left, the messenger of Xerxes came to meet Ipa. He gave Ipa a gold-painted head of Xerxes, and it turned out that Ipa had previously allied with Persia to prevent Leonidas from going to war. Not only Ipa, one of the Spartan council members named Thershon was also involved in this betrayal. Realizing that the Persians were bringing a large force, Leonidas did not expect to win militarily, but intended to hold them off as long as possible to give the Greeks time to prepare their defenses. Because the Carneia festival was in progress in Sparta, Leonidas selected 300 of the best soldiers from the most distinguished families in Sparta. All were men who had sons who could bear heirs, a sign that they were willing to die without ending their line. Each soldier carried the typical hoplite weapons: a spear, a large shield, a bronze helmet, and heavy armor. Leonidas encouraged his troops, emphasizing that honor was more important than life. Leonidas bids farewell to his wife, Queen Gorgos, and their son. Gorgos gives him her necklace as a blessing that can accompany him on the battlefield later.
Goodbye, my love. He doesn't say it.
On their way north, they met other troops from Arcadian. The leader of Arcadian named Xerxes said that it was better for Spartan to go to war against Xerxes, and he came here wanting to join Spartan. However, Xerxes was surprised to see Spartan troops of only 300 soldiers. Leonidas then asked several Arcadian soldiers about his profession. Several Arcadian soldiers replied that his profession was a metal worker, farmer, etc. Then Leonidas asked 300 Spartan soldiers what their profession was. They also replied with the word Spartan. After that, Leonidas claimed that he had more troops than Arcadian, because from a young age, the Spartan soldiers were trained hard. The Arcadian and Spartan troops then went north together. In the middle of the journey, some Spartans suddenly saw someone watching them from above the cliff. Leonidas also said that we had been followed by him. The Spartan and Arcadian troops have now arrived in a village that had just been destroyed by Persian troops. At that time, a boy came who directly approached Leonidas. He said that all villagers were killed by Persian troops and they had a terrifying creature from the darkness. Not long after, the boy died on the throne of Leonidas. All Spartans were very surprised to see the bodies of the villagers lying on a tree.
We'll put their name to the test.
Elsewhere, Queen Gorgo met a senator who was loyal to Leonidas. Queen Gorgo asked him whether the senator would send Spartan troops to help Leonidas. He also said that he did not have the authority if the other senator member did not agree. However, he will help Gorgo by holding a meeting in the next 2 days. At that meeting, Gorgo had to ask all the senator to help Leonidas. We returned to the Spartan and Arcadian troops, where they saw the Persian troops had just arrived at the border sea. Late at night, the god sent a rainstorm to the sea and struck hundreds of Persian ships, which made some Persian troops drown. However, in the morning, the Arcadian troops found that the Persian troops had built a base camp on the north beach, which means that the Persian troops are really a lot, and are getting more and more even though they were attacked by Bala last night. Seeing a lot of enemies, the Spartans laughed because this time they got an equal opponent. When the Spartan troops built a stone wall, they were visited by a messenger from Xerxes who asked the Spartans to surrender and challenge Xerxes. The messenger then said that the stone wall that Spartans built was useless against the Xerxes troops. However, after looking in more detail, the messenger found that among the stones there were Xerxes troops who had previously been tasked to challenge the Spartans. The messenger was angry and began to throw his spear. A Spartan jumped and cut the messenger's hand. After that, he killed the messenger and his bodyguards. Meanwhile, Leonidas and Captain Artemis seemed to be discussing the attack they would do. Leonidas then said about the purpose of the stone wall being built, namely to lure the Persian troops to a narrow path. This is the strategy when Leonidas killed the wolf on the narrow cliff. At the same time, someone who followed Spartan appeared in front of Leonidas. He is Ephialtes, the hunchbacked monster. Ephialtes told Leonidas that there was another cliff that could be crossed by the Persians, and that's where we could attack him. Ephialtes also said he was willing to fight with the Spartans. But of course, Leonidas forbade it, because Ephialtes was unable to cut the messenger and it could threaten Ephialtes. Realizing that he could not join the war, Ephialtes was angry and cursed Leonidas if he misjudged people.
You are wrong!
Spartans' first battle began. Spartan troops were lined up in a narrow gap and waited for an attack from the Xerxes troops. The Xerxes troops then stopped 100 meters away from the Spartan troops. Then one of the commanders again warned Spartan to surrender to the Xerxes. However, at that time a spear from Spartan flew at the commander's body. This made the other Xerxes troops angry and began to run to the Spartan line. When the Xerxes troops hit the front line, Leonidas ordered all his soldiers to push forward and then shoot the cannon at the enemy. This of course succeeded in killing the enemy's front line and straight to the last line. When the enemy troops were few, the Spartan pushed them all to the side of the ravine, which made all the remaining enemy troops fell dead to the sea. After that, the rest of the Xerxes troops fired thousands of arrows at the Spartan. With a shield, the Spartan also covered his body with their own arrows, and that managed to avoid the thousands of arrows hitting their bodies. After the arrows shot was over, they were faced with cavalry. But of course, the cavalry were not a Spartan match. In short, they managed to kill all the cavalry without harming anyone alive.
What we were bred to do. No prisoners, no mercy.
One of the Spartan knights then told Leonidas that a group of Persian troops was coming. But they were few and there was a Xerxes king in the middle. Leonidas also knew that Xerxes wanted to meet him.
Come, Leonidas.
After Leonidas and Xerxes met, Xerxes again offered Leonidas the opportunity to challenge him. If Leonidas agreed, he would give a general rank and abundant wealth. Leonidas then said that he would never surrender because he was only angry after killing thousands of Xerxes' troops. Hearing these words, Xerxes was angry. He swore he would rid Sparta of history. Xerxes would also kill anyone who mentioned the name Sparta.
I'll never know you existed at all.
Xerxes then returned to the base camp and was ready to make the next advance. The senator told Gorgo that the only council member who can help Gorgo is Tilshon, because Tilshon was a very influential person in the Sparta. We return to Leonidas, where Leonidas and his soldiers again made the second war with the bodies of the Xerxes troops. On the night of the reward, the Xerxes troops began to resist. However, this time Xerxes used the eternal soldier, Caspersia, who had a monster without a soul and also a gold mask on his face. When one of the eternal troops approached the wall of the bodies, the Spartan troops immediately put by stabbing the eternal troops with spears. Leonidas was then faced with a monster without a soul. At first, Leonidas was overwhelmed, but after Leonidas used his strength, he managed to kill the monster.
Arcadians! No! No!
From a distance, Xerxes seemed to be watching the defeat of the eternal troops. Xerxes began to feel scared when the Spartan soldiers pierced his troops while shouting horror. The next day, Spartan faced strange troops from Persia, including a large battalion. After that, Spartan was faced with a troop of elephants. However, they were useless after the Spartans knocked them off the edge of a ravine. Seeing his troops lose, Xerxes humiliated his generals by cut of the head of the defeated generals against Spartan.
To cleanse them.
In the next battle, Captain Artemis's son accidentally got hit in the head by the enemy. This made Artemis cry happily. He was furious in front of his enemy and had to be pulled to the rear line so that he would not be killed like his son.
The loss of his son are more frightening to our own.
On the other hand, Ephialtes was on his way to find Xerxes in a room. Ephialtes' visit here turned out to want to be a friend of Xerxes. Xerxes also accepted Ephialtes, but on condition that he show the way to the next Spartan cavalry so that the Persian troops could meet them. Ephialtes was happy to inform Xerxes and asked for a number of prisoners. Elsewhere, Queen Gorgo asked Thrashon to help her get the other senators to agree to send reinforcements to Leonidas. Thrashon then said that he would help Gorgo if Gorgo wanted to give him enjoyment. And by force, Gorgo followed him. We go back to Leonidas and his comrades, where Dexos gave information that Persia already knew our next plan. If we move forward, it's the same as killing ourselves. Leonidas then insisted that he was not afraid of Persia. He still moved forward even though he had to end his life. Retreat with his troops. After Dexos left, Leonidas pleaded in front of his soldiers, where a Spartan cavalryman had to fight to the death to defend his country. Leonidas then called one of the soldiers named Didelios to return home and tell the story of 300 Spartan who fought 300,000 Persian troops. Leonidas then gave his wife life. Didelios also obeyed Leonidas' orders and went home with the rest of the troops. In the morning at Sparta, the meeting of the council was also held. Queen Gorgo then gave a decree on King Leonidas' struggle to defend the city of Sparta. Gorgo also asked all the council to send help to Leonidas. At that time, Thrashon denied Gorgo. Thrashon said that Gorgo did not draw a queen because last night he gave enjoyment to Thrashon, even though Gorgo already knew that enjoyment were very forbidden in the city of Sparta. Hearing Thrashon's words, Gorgo was also angry and pointed it at Thrashon's body. At that time, dozens of gold coins depicted a falling Xerxes from Thrashon's body, and here it is revealed that all this time Thrashon has betrayed Spartan. Because he already knew Leonidas' next move, Xerxes' army finally managed to surround Leonidas' army. Leonidas seems to stand firm in front of Xerxes, while the rest of his troops protected behind him. One of Xerxes' subordinates then gave the last chance to Leonidas to bow to Xerxes. With a heavy heart, Leonidas also began to release his war equipment, then knelt in front of Xerxes. When Xerxes stood up from his chair, Leonidas immediately woke up, then threw his spear towards Xerxes. Unfortunately, Xerxes cheeked. The Xerxes troops then attacked Spartan with various weapons, including arrows. Some Spartans died and some were injured. One of the Spartans then approached Leonidas while saying that he was very lucky to die alongside his king. After that, millions of arrows flew, covering the sun's rays and fell right on the Spartans, including Leonidas. Didelios now arrived at home. He met the Queen of Gorgos and gave her the necklace. A year later, Didelios was seen leading the Spartan troops while telling the story of King Leonidas and his 300 soldiers. Didelios also said that we will fight against Persia. However, this time it was not 300 soldiers who would fight, but 10,000 Spartan soldiers and 30,000 troops across Greece. This film still has a sequel.
To victory!
Okay, that's the story of the movie 300. A message that we can't take from this movie The positive values that can be taken are the courage to fight for principles and honor. Thank you for watching.